Boom. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Look, every entrepreneur needs to have a professional media brand, and podcasting is one of those things that can help you do that. You want to learn a little bit more about what podcasters do? You're going to want to tune into this episode. Let's get this one started. Here we go.
Shut up and sit down.
Look, a business can give you everything you want in life: prestige, wealth, freedom. It can also take everything away from you. This show is for those who are willing to take that risk. These are the real life stories of entrepreneurs. But before we start, I have one small favor to ask. Please leave a comment. It can be advice, critiques, tips, feedback, or share this with someone, because your engagement is the most valuable and most powerful form of social currency. So thank you, and welcome to another episode of Business Bros. All right, business bros. He's helped brands scale with media power, built one of Africa's top-ranked business podcasts, and cracked the code on monetizing attention. He's an author, an entrepreneur, and a media machine. Let's welcome to the show, Mr. Matt Brown. And welcome to the program, Matt.
Great to be here. I feel like running through walls right now.
That's what I'm talking about, man. Hey, I have always thought that podcasting is fun, right? And then something I learned early on is, you know how they say that the camera adds 10 pounds? I think like in podcasting, the camera like takes away 10x your energy. So you got to come with some energy. You got to build some energy for your guests so that they can have a good time. It looks good on camera. What do you think?
Yeah, man. Well, there's lean back and there's lean forward, right?
Exactly. All right, well, let's get this one started, dude. You've built a powerful brand around storytelling, talking to entrepreneurs, very similar to the show that I run here. Give me a little bit of background. How'd you get started in this space, and why go into podcasting?
I started 10 years ago by mistake. I was going to do like 3 episodes, and podcasting wasn't really, what it is now. I think there was like Joe Rogan, Tim Ferriss, or whatever. Like there was basically, nothing like there is today, where there's like 3 million podcasts, to my knowledge.
Yeah.
And I was going to do, as I said, 3 episodes, and I wanted to do some content for a product launch that I was doing at the time. And I was in Johannesburg, South Africa, and one thing basically led to another. I just I don't know whether the medium fell in love with me or whether I fell in love with the medium. But I just kept doing it, and it was audio only. It wasn't video, and as well produced as what your show is back then. And so about 100 episodes in, I had an audience in 100 countries around the world, and that was in about 18 months. And so it's just kind of, then I had media deals with Entrepreneur Magazine, CNBC. They were broadcasting my events live. And so, I just kind of fell into it. It was a gift of God, so to speak. And long story short, 1,000 episodes later, 4 best-selling books. I've got an audience in 100 countries. And what I do now is I'm in the impact business. So I connect people together, build communities, and really use my platform to help solve business problems. So as an example, you want to open up a relationship with an investor, they're ignoring you to death. My show is a way to solve those sorts of problems. So yeah, it's been quite a journey. So it's also, by the way, the reason why I'm in the US. So
It's dude, podcasting, it's been a tremendous thing in my life as well. I started in 2017, and it's funny because even back then, I remember, talking about just getting into the space, and they talked about like pod fade, for example. People will get into this thing and they'll do like, 7 to 14 episodes, and then that's about it. They fall off from there. And at the time, there was only like 500,000 podcasts, and then COVID hit. And things drastically changed. Everybody had a bunch of time, and the numbers from people who were doing it before just skyrocketed. And you were starting from before that. And you mentioned the technology, which is funny because when I started, it was audio only as well, just because the tech side of it was so difficult to like kind of put together for each individual episode. How has the tech helped you as things have progressed, as things have changed, as we hit that COVID video era? How has it progressed for you?
We kept adding mediums or channels to the show over time, and it was mainly out of persistence, or should I say, other people's persistence. So I was always kind of married to audio, and then I remember in 2019 the Bitcoin price ran for the first time, and I started covering that, just really trying to help people understand why they shouldn't, take out mortgages or second mortgages to buy a Bitcoin on a speculative basis. And so that's when the media requirements like CNBC were like, well, no, we need to do video. And where's your channel? And I was like, well, it's not. It's audio only. So yeah, so it was just a case of like, there was a need, not necessarily a want. And so the technology or distribution of content really started to scale through not only video, but primarily through mobile. And so I used to call it like the biggest distribution or disruption in the distribution of mobile content, because like if someone subscribes to your show, wherever it is, like on some aggregator, every time you release an episode like this one, it pings a little notification. So it goes, hey, Business Bros has just gone live, or Business Bros has just released a new episode. And that's very disruptive, right? So you might be driving, you could be cooking or whatever, and suddenly there's a notification on your phone. So I think there wasn't like one silver bullet to the distribution of the show. It's a mix, right? You get that. It's not just audio, it's video now, especially. But I think to answer your question more succinctly, I think I didn't fall in love with the channels or the distribution. I fell in love with the stories. And what makes a great show today is talent. So if I have like a billionaire, so I've had 6 billionaires, or if not, I can't remember now, but certainly on 6 continents. And so when you have, Steve Blank or Jeffrey Moore, or you have some very highly regarded business thought leader, Simon Sinek as an example, like those shows always overperform for some, because it's about the talent. And so the power of podcasting is really about unlocking secrets, and I think the conduit to that is questions. And I don't think we give enough credence to how much questions govern our lives. So like I've done 1,000 episodes now, something like that. And so you learn over time how powerful questions are and the context of within which those questions live. So for instance, if you ask a question about the future, is AI going to take all of our jobs? It's very different to what problem can AI solve for our business today? Or historically, why haven't we solved this problem before? And so those are some, some lessons that I've learned over the years for sure.
It's been a big difference for me in my business. For my brother, for example, we started the podcast so far, 2017. It was only audio, and it was kind of real estate geared. We were geared towards more of the real estate side, but it opened up so many opportunities. We used podcasting for us to build an audience within an industry. We saw how well it did for us in the real estate side. We even started another show called the Insurance Bro Show, and it basically allowed us to talk to people in that industry really well. People who were normally out of reach, had to schedule a meeting long in advance. It really opened a lot of doors to the point where, my brother ended up retiring at 37 from his insurance agency, just basically meeting different people and making those connections. Why do you think people have such a big misconception when it comes to podcasting as a media tool? It's so, to me, it's so powerful, and the way you're explaining your story, it's made such a big change, and yet people are still hesitant to this day to use podcasting as a marketing tool.
Well, they don't do it because it's hard, and that's what you referred to earlier. So of those 3 million podcasts that exist, there's a graveyard of could have been shows, so this. I mean, it's hard work. I mean, to do something for as long. I think in fact, I was on another show for another podcast network, and one of the founders shared with me a stat. She said something like less than 2% of podcasts anywhere in the world of any type past 700 episodes. So that indicates that there's a reason for that. And my view of that, having been, on the other side, is that it's hard work. People overestimate what they can achieve with a show, but they underestimate how hard it is. And I remember when I released my first episode, I uploaded it as audio only, checked the audio. I was like, yeah, awesome. Went to bed, woke up the next morning, I expected like 1,000, downloads or views or plays or whatever. And there was one. And that was me from the day before checking the audio. You know what I mean? And so it's like, well then, geez. And so what happens is people start to focus on the wrong things. So they go, why am I only getting 30 downloads? And I've been doing this for 6 months or whatever, they focus on the vanity metrics, not on what a show is actually about. So and of course there's exceptions, right? So if you're at the top of the pyramid, you've got Joe Rogan, what have you, and then therefore it's like, it's a reach this story, right? But there is a huge subset of shows or media platforms, as I like to describe it, that don't get 2, 5, 10 million downloads per episode, but they get far less than that. But what you start to realize is that if I'm able to reach, say, I don't know, like in our case, 5 million people, what is that worth? But then again, you're still focusing on the wrong things. And so what and what I know is that a show is really about human connection. Yes. It's about taking the relationships and the equity within those relationships and doing something impactful with it, right? So like I did 30 shows just last week. 30.
That's a lot.
That's crazy, dude. No one works harder. No one works harder than me in this space. I can tell you. If someone's out there, let me know. But so why do I do that? Well, it's about the connections that I'm making, right? And so if you believe in this idea that your network is your net worth, you can do something with it. So I'll put this in perspective. So for 10 years, I would interview someone, New York, an author, whoever it is, rocket ship scientist person, some super ding dong guy or woman. And I would go like, thanks for the interview, bye. And then recently I was like, well, why am I not connecting these 30, these 100, these 200 people together? So last week, Friday, we started a private forum. It's called the Gas Network. It's GAS stands for give a shit. So you have to give a shit about, people, humans, especially now with AI, and you have to give a shit about yourself and what have you. And so we had this private forum. I just literally threw people in a room, and I'm like, great. I had no structure. I honestly expected a car crash, but I was honestly, dude, like it was the best thing ever. It was like a live group podcast. You should absolutely do this if you love what you do, because the value of perspective across multiple leaders in business that are talking about AI, like will AI take, as an example, it doesn't have to be about AI, but will AI take, all of our jobs? How do you approach reverse engineering for prompts across different models? How do you remove biases? Can you trust the hundreds of models that are out there now? And so connecting these people together allowed this conversation to go from 1x, which is what you and I are doing, to a 10x value exchange. So now it's created a whole other vision for the map, not even the map round show. The map round show is a preloader for the network, of course, but the network itself, the idea of that could never ever have happened if I was just focused on selling a 60-second ad slot to Oracle NetSuite, who came to me the other day. I'm like, guys, you're thinking way too short-sighted here. And so, but you see what I'm saying? It's really about the value of the network. It's the value of the human connection. It's the value of the story, and bringing those people together to literally create something that doesn't exist.
That structure would kind of, off the top of my head, that's kind of scary. You're going in and throwing a bunch of entrepreneurs into a platform, asking them a question, and letting them all talk at the same time. that kind of makes me a little nervous. But it's cool to be able to have those conversations with people, because one of the things I really enjoyed about podcasting is that if there was an author I wanted to learn about, I could reach out, get them on the show. I already learned what I needed to learn from the book, but I could always ask questions. We always, you can annotate on the corner. You could do a little bit of Google search. You can ask ChatGPT, but to ask the author directly, that's a whole different ballgame that enhances what I'm learning there. Building a network of people, that is also another aspect of it. The consistency factor, I think, as a side effect, what people don't realize is as you start to talk behind the microphone more often, you start to get behind the camera more often, you become a better speaker. You become more of a formidable stage presence than many other people have in the past. Aside from building the network, you're building yourself as an individual simply by getting behind here and voicing your opinions on a consistent basis. I know my speaking skills have improved. How has that helped you, not only building the networks, but how about getting on stages and talking to people directly?
Yeah. So I hated podcasting in the beginning. Like
I don't
Like
blame you.
I really sucked at it, man. I would
I think
script.
everybody does episode 1, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So I used to script everything and, make sure I don't make any mistakes
Yeah.
because, I have this huge fear of judgments, whatever. And so because I'm an introvert, like my idea of a nightmare is if you invited me to a dinner party with a bunch of people I don't know. And so I carried that same, it's your identity, right? And so I carried that into, I don't know how many episodes. And I used to hate it. I was like, God, like, how am I going to hold a conversation with this shark from the Shark Tank for an hour? Like, who am I to interview this guy? And
Hmm.
so I had this huge imposter syndrome thing as well. And so over time, however, you start to lose that identity. And the reason for that, and this was actually an insight or lesson, I should say, that was shared with me with an Australian author. He wrote a book called The Introvert's Edge. And so we did the whole thing about the book, like you were describing, and then at the end, he's like, "You know what, Matt? You're not really an introvert." So I'm like, "What do you mean by that?" He's like, "You're a contextual extrovert." So I'm like, "Well, explain." So he's like, "Well, if you put a microphone in front of in front of your mouth, or if I was on stage or whatever, I automatically become an extrovert, right? Because you almost have to
Hmm.
be." And so I found that to be a really powerful thing. It's that, okay, if I change the context, and there's a very strong relationship between context and content. And so if you put me on stage, but if you put you on stage or whatever, suddenly you're like the business bros guy, you know what I mean? And you're all full of energy because you've changed the context. And so therefore you can change the content. And so that is the reason why. I mean, dude, like when I was selling out shows across the country, and they're broadcasting the thing to 52 countries. I mean, like, can you imagine? That's not like a podcast. That is
Yeah.
a whole different animal. And yet you're up on stage and all this stuff you can find on my website and whatever. But the power of transformation and the ability to like execute in like context where you historically were like, there is no way I'm going to succeed at this. There is no way. And now suddenly you're there and you
Hmm.
succeeded it. And again, that's like one of the unintended benefits of being, a host like you.
It's a strange feeling. I remember really early on. I used to when we first started doing podcasts. It was in person. It was person to person. This is prior to COVID. People would come over. We do the whole handshake thing. Have a conversation before, sit down, turn the mic on. But there was something that happens. I feel when the camera goes on, when the light switch goes on, something triggers. And early on when you talked about nobody likes their first episode 1. It was different because when I first turned on the switch, nerves would kick in, and that's that first scary part. But as you got better at it, I flipped the switch, and now it's different. Now I hop on a stage, I flip that switch, and I can turn it on in a different energy level. Same thing when I get on the show, turn it on, it's a different energy level. But I have interviewed some people where you meet them in person and they have a high energy level, and then you flip the switch on and silence. You can't get them to expand on a sentence at all. Have you ever had experience like that? And what did it feel like as a host to have any interviews like that?
Dude, I've had so many bad ones. I think it comes down to like it's so you just never know, right? I mean,
True.
what happened the other day? Oh yes, I was in, and this annoys me as well, right? Because you're literally a master of the arts. You and the guys have been around for so long. Anyway, so this chief marketing officer for this company who shall remain nameless, she arrives and she's like, "Hey, I've got some questions for you to ask me." So I'm
Uh,
like, imagine I did that to you. That would insult you. That's so disrespectful. I'm like, bitch, I've done over 1,000 interviews with people way more influential than you. I think I'm okay. And she's like, no, 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 but I really wanted to make your life easier. What? You want to
well,
make my life easier? Come on, man. Who the hell do you think you're talking to? Anyway, and then of course it gets worse. So now I'm like, oh, damn, maybe I should. I'm not going to ask the exact. I'm not going to. Otherwise, you must pay me a shit ton of money. But what I'll do is I'll take what you've given me and I'll try and weave it into the narrative and context of the series that I'm doing, which is all about AI. So I do that. So then I didn't do a good enough job, evidently, because then she started reading her answers off the screen. And I'm like, holy shit, man, you cannot do that. This is like, who are you? Like, you have no idea who you are dealing with, or more importantly, how to deal with a conversation with a platform owner. And I don't know how you feel about this, but I get pitched a lot. I'm sure you do as well. And
Mhm.
it's amazing how, like, PR firms, podcast booking agencies, and so forth, not all of them, but the majority of them have no idea how to deal with a platform owner. They don't. Like, they
No.
expect, dude, like, they expect everything for free, right?
Yep.
And I'm like, guys, I don't need talent. I don't need talent. I need partnerships. You know, you have to be thinking
Yes.
differently about this. In other words, like, what can I do for you? You know, literally, like, come, dude, come on. You said to me that you don't really interview podcasts, so I'll tell you straight now. After this, we'll hook it up. You come on my show, and I'll interview you. I'll put you up on LinkedIn. I've got tons of followers there, and so I can help you raise your profile. You reach my audience. You see what I'm saying? And so
Yeah.
it's about synergies. It's not about just taking. And I don't know what it is about some people, but they just want to take and have their like 30 minutes of fame. You know, they're not thinking
Mhm.
beyond themselves. And I don't know where that comes from. Obviously, I've only been in the States for 3 years or so, but I don't know whether it's a societal issue or some sort of cultural value where people just like, well, I know you spent 10 years building this thing, but you know what? I'm just going to come there and expect you to do what I want you to do.
Yeah.
It's unreal. It's unreal.
No, yeah, I totally understand that. I've gotten, I mean, your episode 14, 1,414. Like it's, I've been at this for some time. I got pitched all kinds of different people doing different things. And some of them have some really unique stories. Some of them are a little off, a little strange. And I know I could be a little off, a little strange. So I'm not, no judgment there. It's just, it is what it is. But when you're working with some of these PR companies and they come pitching you some people that, I mean, they make them sound so great sometimes, and then they ask for the world. It's tough at some points for sure. So let me ask you, because we've been at this for some time, but there are people who are just going to start off with episode one. They're going to record themselves and they're going to not like the way they look. They're going to listen to their audio and they're going to hate the way they sound. If you have somebody who's just starting out, what advice or first steps would you give them to like successfully start building their personal brand?
Well, start. Day one's the worst. Episode one is the worst. And even though there might be millions of other podcasts out there, no one will do a podcast like you.
100%. 100%.
They won't. It's not possible. I can't do a Business Pro show. You can't do a Matt Brown show. We can't do a Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan couldn't do our shows. You understand? So, like, it's really, this is why. And I do think this is going to become a more acutely valuable thing in terms of personal branding. And you get two schools of thought. Personal brands don't matter. It's about category design or something else, or maybe it's about product-led growth or what have you. I believe that this idea of not just a personal brand, like like everyone's like trying to do thought leadership or whatever and doing most of the time doing it badly, but if you think about a guy like Alex Hormozy, right? He made $100 million in a weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think he made $100 million in a weekend? And it's because it's this idea of influence, but it has to be attached to you, your personal brand, the Matt Brown Show, Business Pros, or whatever. And then when you recognize for a moment that it's the one thing that you can own outright, you can have the best tech product, you can have the best marketing campaign or whatever. All those things are more likely to be commoditized than you. So that's why you do it. That's why you start. And yeah, it's going to suck. It takes 10 years of pain and suffering to become an overnight success. But when you recognize that, like I literally do, like the Matt Brown Show is the best thing I ever did. It keeps giving. And every time I've tried, like I founded 14 companies over the last 25 years, had a couple of exits, lots of failure. But I keep coming back to the show because every time, like I neglected the show for some time because I was like, I'm just taking too much of my time. I want to focus on my AI products agency thing, which I'm busy selling for this one reason, is that I can create far more impact in the world through my brand, through my identity, and you through Business Bros and so forth, than any other option. It's just fact. It's just fact. And it's taken me 10 years to figure that out. I mean, I had 75 people in my last business, whole group of companies, blah, 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 blah. and I was miserable as sin. It basically created so much time suck that I had no, you know, more time to actually create impact. So another thing, like I'm obsessed with this idea of how do you have a tiny epic business, but a big simple life? In other
Mm,
words, how do you get paid very well for doing great work, but that allows you to have a big life, meaning I can spend time with my kids, my friends, my family, I can go on holidays, whatever, and have it be simple. You know what I'm saying? Like
yes.
podcasting is simple. And yes, the technology and the channels and all that stuff, that's a whole other conversation. But in principle, having this conversation, right, is a simple thing. It's a very simple thing. And so why wouldn't you do it? Why wouldn't you do it? Just do it, you know?
You know, it's funny. I remember in kindergarten, your teacher used to say that you can become anything you want to be in life if you just put your mind to it. And we live today in an era where that's literally true. Now, and the weird thing about it is you don't necessarily have to become that thing, but you can talk about that thing and be related to it. You can be around it as osmosis or interview people or build your brand around it. And even if you're not an expert in that space, you will become an expert in that space. Even if you're an outsider there, as you become involved, you'll become the insider. You might even be the one that they come and talk to about that particular industry. And it all comes from doing stuff like this, from having the conversations with people, from being uncomfortable with yourself, from being uncomfortable in feeling like an imposter in that space. But over time, you start to break that down a little bit. You become more of an expert. Your brand, because of the content that you're creating, is starting to build a foundation of who you are. And literally, like your kindergarten teacher, when somebody Googles your name, you've created whatever image that you wanted going forward. And then you can leverage that, like you were saying, for so many different things. Where do you see yourself with your show and your impact going in the next few years in the future here? I mean, I know you're doing some AI stuff, which is funny because I do a lot of the same stuff. But where do you see yourself going here? As you know, we're going to be competing with things like Sora and all these, you know, Hedras and all these different AI platforms that are creating content.
It's a great question. I think I'm happy about that. Like, the
Same.
more AI that happens, the better for me and the better for you. And here's why. The amount of skepticism and distrust about AI in America, right, and more generally around the world, is way underappreciated. Like, I've done 100 shows now just about AI, just talking to leaders and stuff like that. I was at a breakfast with 20 CEOs the other day here in Denver, and the guys couldn't even define what AI is. Then I've had other shows where people are like, you know, and you see this stuff on social media. I don't know, you probably saw this as well, but it's like there's a kid, like a toddler, and then something bad's gonna happen. So he's putting his finger in a plug, and the plug sparks, and then the dog grabs the kid, pulls the kid back, and saves the kid. So you see that, and you're like, wow, that's a very impressive dog. But then you see other variations of that. There's a kid in the driveway, and this car is reversing, and then the dog comes, or the cat saves the kid from a bear. So you see these things, right? And so what I'm saying is the AI now is getting so sophisticated, it's hard to know who to trust anymore.
It totally is, and I think my camera froze here, but no big deal. We'll go
That's all good, man. It's all
with
good.
the little backup one here. The not as nice camera, but the backup just in case.
That's
No,
okay. So,
and you know, to add to your whole idea of the skepticism, I think we're all just afraid that the Terminator is going to end up happening, or we're going to end up living like in a Matrix type situation. I think that's ultimately the biggest fear. But I mean, dude, I've seen some of these nice, literally the AI robots that they're shipping out now to work in your home. Like those things are phenomenal. It's scary with some of the wartime AI that's going out, right? The drones and stuff like that. But like, I think overall as humanity, I still believe that for the most part, we want to advance as a species. We're not gonna, you know, hopefully we're not gonna end up killing each other. And in the meantime, I mean, there's so many cool things that are going to make our lives so much easier. And you know, kudos to you for doing 100 episodes on AI. You're more educated because you've just decided to talk to people about that simply by hopping behind a mic and having a conversation. And
yeah,
you
exactly.
are light years ahead of so many people.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say light years ahead. I don't think that's the right frame for it, but I would say that I'm privileged from a perspective point of view.
Mm,
So what I'm saying, and here's why I'm saying that, going back to your previous question, I think we are going to need authentic human connection more than ever. More than ever. I spoke to the head of global events for Microsoft. She was on my series, and I was talking to her about AI and whatever. They do 41 events a year. There's almost one a week just about AI around the country. And it's a ridiculous thing. And if you think about it, why would you do that? If you Microsoft and you have this huge reach across social media and so on and so forth, and you're able to put content out about your new AI co-pilot use case, solve a problem, whatever, why are you doing so many events? And the reason for that is because people don't know who to trust anymore on social media. They don't. And so what they look for is leaders. They look for thought leaders. Like you are a thought leader in your space, and so am I. And irrespective of like how many episodes you do, it's about the value of that human connection. So
mm,
again, it's with this gas network story that I'm creating. It's bringing people together in a trusted environment with chasm rules that's anonymous, where you feel safe. And when you feel safe, you can express yourself. You can connect with humans, other people who are also trying to figure out, hey, dude, like what does podcasting mean in an AR in an age of AI? Is it the right question? I don't know. That's debatable, but it doesn't matter, because when you can have that conversation in a trusted space with other people, your peers, people who are in different industries, maybe different job roles or whatever, then and you bring them together, that's where like the magic happens. And so what I've learned over the last few years, because AI is not the first technological revolution, right, or the promise of transformation. However, as much as the world changes and it speeds up, the more things stay the same.
mm-hmm.
They stay the same, dude. Like you have to be empathetic. You have to know how to communicate. You have to want to contribute. Do you know what I'm saying? Like it's not just about the new shiny Veo 3 model, because it can now add audio to a cool voiceover thing, and you can create this fake bullshit that people seem to think is fucking cool on social media. It's like, what are you doing? Like another one, just because another lesson from the series, people have completely become over reliant on AI now. So if you want to create a social post for, let's just say it's a podcast episode, you run the transcript through GPT, whatever it is, and it creates your beautiful new post. And you see this all over social media, right? It's like, look at all these icons. There's like tick boxes and rocket ships. I don't even know where to find that shit on a fucking keyboard. Where do you find a rocket ship, dude? Like, I don't understand. So when you see that stuff, you're like, yeah, I saved myself 20 minutes of time. But what that says to everybody that sees that shit is that you are not authentic. Can I trust you? Are these actually the words you wanted to say or
Mm.
not? You see what I mean?
Yes,
And so
yes.
now this is what I'm saying. I think there's a huge space for what you're doing if you're in the media space to do events like in-person stuff. Dude, I put 14 people in a room for breakfast in like a matter of hours in Denver. Because people are so desperate. They
Yeah.
want that safe space. And this is, the art of being a great host like you is that you make people feel safe to be able to express themselves. And I'm sure you've seen this, right? Like when you stop
Yeah.
recording, they suddenly change,
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
now they don't feel like the camera's on them. They don't feel like they're going to say the wrong thing. Or maybe they'll go, I didn't really want to share too much about that thing. But in reality, you see what I mean? So
Yeah.
you see what I'm saying? So you change the context again, you change the content. And so people, when you're face to face, people just want to trust, that they want to connect, they want to believe, they want to have hope that they're not going to be made irrelevant, that they have a sense of self-worth, and these things. This is what I say: as much as the world's going to change, and who knows, robotics, Optimus, who knows, who cares? But as this need for fundamentals from like the 1800s back in the day, where it's like, is this guy gonna kill me?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Who's my tribe?
Yeah, but again, it goes. I love the fact that you're talking about making that human connection, because even in that situation, you had a good read on people. I think today we're losing that as we go to our screens. We're so quick to swipe what we don't like, and just move on. we're missing that human connection. I agree with you. There are a lot of people who are like, just put it down. Let's have a talk. Let's have a conversation. The dating life is probably crazy like that. I haven't been in the dating world for a long time, but I couldn't imagine going into it right now with technology the way it is. Politics was the same way. That's why we had, Joe Rogan doing these interviews, and they were such a big deal because it's 3 hours of getting to know somebody, like in a sit down conversation. You get that authenticity that you're talking about. It makes a big difference. 100%. We're running low on time, and that always happens when we have good conversations with people. So, Matt, if people want to find out more about the networks that you're putting together, to how to become involved, how to get people to talk to other people, and maybe become part of those groups, how can they do that?
Yeah, so probably the best place to go is my website, mattbrownshow.com, and just connect with me wherever, really. LinkedIn's probably the place where I get the most traction, and so yeah, just reach out to me wherever. If you just put Matt Brown Show into Google or Perplexity or anywhere else, you'll find me. So yeah, I hope to make a few connections.
Yeah, it helps that you did this like 10 years ago, so you got the Matt Brown Show as your URL. It's actually your name. Yeah, you've locked it in. It's really easy to find somebody. If you build a brand, ladies and gentlemen, like we're talking about here today, and you have a lot of content, and you just tell somebody, you know what, just Google my name real quick, you'll find my stuff. It really works. Like that's essentially what you're doing when you're building your brand. You're putting out so much content that you make it damn near impossible for anyone not to find you. And that's the name of the game. Matt and his team are doing that so that not only can you build your brand online, but actually meet with people who you might learn a few things from. You might teach a few things to. You never know. That's the power of these networks. And I think you called it the Gas Network. I love the name, by the way. That's super cool. Matt, any final thoughts before we head out?
Nope, just keep doing what you're doing, brother. We need more business bros in the world. So all credit to you, man. I think the fact that you've done so much work in the space is all credit to your character, man, and that's a good one. So
appreciate it. All right, ladies and gents, that's all we got for you guys on this one. We'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace, and we're out.
It's over. Go home.
Is your business in need of marketing? Try starting a podcast, but not just any podcast. Podcast like a pro. We can show you how to take your business from being invisible to becoming a brand people trust. Go to www.businessbros.biz to get started today.